What is up, guys? My name is Greg.
I'm Jade.
And this is The List Off.
And today we're talking about...
our top 5 90s cartoons.
Nostalgia! My childhood!
Vintage content for you guys.
Yeah. But this is really for our 90s babies out there.
I'd say 80s. 80s too.
Oh, 80s too, yeah.
Yeah. I definitely watched cartoons that weren't for my age bracket well past the time I was supposed to be watching it. I wasn't the target audience by a long shot, but I did watch Dragon Tales for too much.
I forgot about Dragon Tales. Damn it. Spoilers!
Anything you would like to say about your list?
My first opening statement would be that I'm a little worried because I forgot about Dragon Tales, and that maybe doesn't bode well for what I do have on here. The only other thing that I will say about my list is that I was in so much pain emotionally. Greg can attest, it took me twice as long to finish my list as it took him to finish his. This is serious business. But I am really proud of my list. I think it accurately reflects my childhood and what was impactful to me. The hardest part was discovering how many cartoons I love that were not in fact from the 90s.
Like Fairly Odd Parents?
Yeah, that was one of the first ones I wrote down when I was just like brainstorming cartoons of my like childhood, and I was devastated when I discovered that was from the 2000s. Should we dive in? I have some ideas about what's going to be on your list, and so I'm honestly really excited to see the ones that I feel like I know will be there and if there are any surprises.
Okay.
First, we should probably tell them the rules. Like, how do we define a 90s cartoon besides the obvious definition?
So they would have had to have premiered episodes in the 90s. So whether that's from 89 to 94 or like 1999 to 2003, that would be considered a 90s show within our categorization of it. And for this, all intents and purposes, we are not including anime. That may be a separate list.
Mm-hmm. That is a category of its own.
Mm-hmm. Let's get started with our number 5 on the list.
Greg, show me your number 5.
My number 5 is X-Men.
Oh!
I used to watch it a lot. One thing that always got me excited was the theme music.
Mm-hmm. Are we now in copyright violation?
I'll stop there. It has like some pretty adult themes going on there. So like racism, not fitting in, and like politics and corruption. And the characters were so cool. It was my introduction to the X-Men. Before that show, I didn't know who the X-Men were. Mm-hmm. And this was at a time before the internet.
Yeah, you weren't just like accessing comics as easy as you could today.
Yeah, and I was poor. I didn't have any allowance or anything, so I couldn't buy any comic books either.
Comic books in this economy?
But also, it's got that like very 90s flair about it. There are like one-liners or like really corny, cheesy jokes in there.
Yeah.
Especially coming from Hank, the Beast. There were a ragtag bunch of outcasts that were trying to fit in and do good in the world, even though the world may not have accepted them.
That's beautiful.
And that's why I love the show. So I'm all done. I'm interested to see what your number 5 on the list is.
My number 5 is Arthur.
Hey!
Hey!
What a wonderful kind of day.
What is there to really say about Arthur other than it's like, maybe not everyone's, but it was a comfort show. You watched Arthur to feel good. It was wholesome. It was educational. There were messages. And currently, some pretty great memes. I love that fist meme.
It's so good.
It is just like peak content. And the one with DW staring at the sign on Arthur's door, and she's like, the sign can't stop me because I can't read. Beautiful, masterful. But I'm not gonna like drone on and on about Arthur because it was just my top 5, and it really made the cut because of the nostalgia factor. I haven't watched a lot of Arthur in my adult life, so I don't know how it's aged or what happened to it. But I remember really loving it as a kid. And we won't have Greg offer too many comments on Arthur because I have suspicions that Arthur made it a little further up on his list.
What?
Yeah. So Greg, what is your number 4?
My number 4 is Batman, the animated series. It's something that I revisited during the pandemic, and I was like, this is so good. And this is when they introduced Harley Quinn. So Batman, the animated series was the one that made up the character. I had to put it on because our cat's name is Quinn.
After Harley Quinn, actually. I just really loved Harley Quinn. I actually watched Batman, the animated series, for the first time during the pandemic. Wow. A masterpiece. Finish this video, but then go watch that. I think Batman, the animated series, does a good job, too, of, like, humanizing its villains. Like, they're not just these morally terrible people. Like, they're that, but more. And I think that's really important. I love that in a good villain.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And also, one thing that I haven't mentioned yet, but the voice acting is so good. Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker as a Joker. And he does a great job. I think of all the ones on my list, this is the one that I would most revisit as an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's enough about Batman.
It'll never be enough about Batman.
Yeah. Such a good show. Recommend it. That is my top 4. Jade, what is your number 4?
My number 4 is Recess.
Recess. R-E-C-E-S-S.
This was a cultural phenomenon. As a child, like if you didn't watch it in the morning before you went off to school, what were you doing? What were you watching instead? Maybe you just weren't watching TV. That's possible. But this was one of my favorite things to like get me out of bed, was knowing I was going to go watch Recess and then go put everything that I was learning about societal norms and governmental organizational structures into practice in my own 4th grade class. It was a big deal. Recess had such amazing characters. They were complex, multi-dimensional, which I think is really cool. Like just when you thought you knew everything there was to know about a character, they would like throw something emotional in to be like, what? Character development. And Recess was this really cool show because it was just this like commentary on school as this microcosm of all of society. And I think that's really dope. And I mean, talk about like some adult themes too. I'm wondering if maybe that's just something that the 90s did well overall. It's just like they made adult shows pass as cartoons. All right, enough about Recess. Greg, what is your top 3?
What is my number 3? My number 3 is Magic School Bus. As a kid, it held a very special place in my heart. Like, I used to ride the school bus every day to school. It, like, was kind of like escaping to a different class. Miss Frizzle, and then there is Arnold. Oh, I wish I should have stayed home today. And they all had their little catchphrases.
Yeah, they did.
According to my research.
The catchphrases were wonderful.
Yeah, and I think, like, it's the closest thing to a procedural that a kid's show could have.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. I knew what to expect when I was watching Magic School Bus. Like, it was feel good. It was a constant.
Yeah.
Just, like, happy and good times. And that, as a kid, I think was, like, necessary.
It's necessary as an adult, too.
That was my top 3. I'm interested to see what's on your list.
My top 3, top third, my third choice to list off is Spider-Man!
Spider-Man!
Yeah! Radioactive Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Spider-Man.
Well,
radioactive Spider-Man.
It's true, but I can't make the, like, I don't I can't do the electronic sounds with my mouth. What do you want from me?
Yeah.
But yeah, it did sound more like that. Peter Parker is probably one of my first loves. One of my earliest crushes.
That Peter Parker version was like ripped. He was jacked.
He was. And he was like in college. He was a college student. He was older, mysterious. But the show itself had such good storytelling, good characters. I loved the personal struggles that Peter Parker went through. But Peter Parker was such a complex character. Like I don't know, I loved watching the struggle that he was in between like balancing the secret identity with his real life and the personal choices that he had to make that then influenced like not just his real life, but also his superhero life. It was just beautiful. Wonderful. The friendship drama, the relationships, please, top notch.
I agree with all of it.
That's all I'll say about it. All right, we are really getting down to it. I'm starting to get nervous, actually, that some of them that I thought were on your list are either not on your list or higher than I anticipated. So I'm really looking forward to you listing off your number 2.
My number 2 will do. So my number 2 is Spider-Man! So, I didn't want to say too much because I didn't want to reveal that my number 2 was Spider-Man, but I definitely agree with what Jade said. And I think like looking at the arc of Spider-Man, this was the version of Spider-Man that really fueled the way for the subsequent Tobey Maguire movies. It introduced so many of the villains. One of the ones that I remember pretty well was the friendship that he had with Harry Osborn.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I remember thinking Venom was so cool. And all the villains were like pretty cool.
The villains were really cool. Are you just listing out the things you can remember now?
Yeah.
About the show?
I'm trying to fill in the blanks of what Jade didn't say. I think we can move on from Spider-Man. I'm interested to see what your number 2 is, Jade.
My number 2 is X-Men. I was so shocked when this was number 5 on your list. I was like, damn. Only number 5? X-Men and Spider-Man, they flip-flopped a lot for me. So it could have easily been X-Men 3, Spider-Man 2. I think it might just depend on the day that you asked me. But ultimately this time I went with X-Men on top for some of the reasons that Greg has already said. And that's really just the themes that were tackled in this show. Like so much about, I mean, you were saying it, like racism and prejudice and oppression. I mean, the vehicle of the mutants to tell a lot of stories that minority groups or those who are viewed by society on the outsides, that really resonates. That hits. I mean, X-Men has issues. I think that's probably goes without saying for anything made in the 90s. But overall, I think they did do a really good job of bringing a lot of themes and issues to the forefront to like make you critically think about them. And Fire theme song, that factored in a lot. We can't sing it because...
Can we?
I don't know, can we? How does copyright work?
Ba-da-na-na-na-na.
No one's checking on us.
Yeah. Don't snitch on me, guys.
Tell anybody. Sorry, that came off really threatening.
And also, like, I liked the relationships between the characters.
Oh!
Like,
Yes.
Wolverine. He did not like anybody. But when he did, it, like, meant something.
It mattered.
Yeah.
Like...
Everyone was a bub.
Yeah. Bub. When we were kids, my little brother had this Wolverine action figure, and it was one of the kinds that talk, and one of its things it said was just bub. I love the relationships as well, and that was a big factor into this too, and especially Jubilee. She was my favorite. I loved her. She was a tale of found family, and that always gets me. And I loved her and Wolverine's relationship, which you kind of see in the live action, like the movies that they made, except they made it rogue. I mean, it wasn't that in the television show. I don't know what it is in the comics.
I'm not much of a comic reader.
We've established Greg was too poor for comics.
Yeah.
I think the only thing I haven't said yet about X-Men is how much I love Gambit. Love Gambit. I don't know that I felt the same when I recently rewatched a little bit of X-Men about Gambit, but at the time, he was just so cool, so sexy. Like, throw a card at me.
Blow up my heart, why don't you?
And I loved his and Rogue's, like, little love story. What? She can't touch anyone, and he's just like, I'm gonna love you anyway. It's so romantic. All right, Greg, I'm so excited to know what you're gonna list off for your number one.
Do you have an idea of what it might be?
I think I know what it is, and if it's not, and that isn't on there, I'm gonna be like, our relationship is a lie. No, I'm kidding. But honestly, it would be a pretty big, I don't want to say betrayal. It would be a betrayal in the sense of the knowledge that I thought I knew about you. Now I'm nervous.
Okay. Without further ado, my top one is Arthur. Is this what you thought?
Yes! I was waiting for it to show up. I actually didn't think it was going to be number one, though. I can't wait to hear why.
Arthur is just like a huge part of my origin story. I didn't have cable, and this was like on PBS, so I watched a ton of it, and it was always on when I came back home from school. So that was a big factor of me winding down from the school bus and just having time to myself before like anyone else got home. I had older siblings that would get home a little bit later, and this was just like my time. And sometimes my mom would bring me like a plate full of Cheetos, and I'd watch Arthur, and it was like a good time. This is one of the shows that I like watched well into like my later years of elementary school and like middle school. The theme song stayed the same from beginning to end.
That is pretty special.
Yeah. They had some like good songs. Having fun isn't hard when you've got a library card.
Yeah.
Jekyll, hide, hide, Jekyll.
That one was a good one.
Yeah. Celebrity Guest, Yo-Yo Ma.
The celebrity guests were really cool.
Mr. Rogers. And then they had Art Garfunkel up in there. Buster Baxter went away and he came back. Cresplemania, it's insane, yeah. How could Arthur have Cresplemania?
You're getting a taste of why I would have been like shocked to my very foundations if Arthur had not been on this list, because Greg will just quote Arthur all the time, at once a week at least.
That's excessive. That's excessive. You're making me sound like an Arthur freak.
No, I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to make you sound like a freak. I'm just trying to demonstrate what you were saying about it being your origin story.
Yeah. Well, one, I don't think I quote it once a week.
That's probably true. I'm being hyperbolic.
Yeah, that's untrue. Fake news. Arthur was just like a feel-good show, and I'd like watch it, and there was like a diverse cast of characters. I learned about Kwanzaa from Arthur. I don't think I can say enough about Arthur. Yeah.
I don't think you'll ever be done saying things about Arthur, and I think that's beautiful.
All right. I've said a lot about Arthur. Now, I'm excited to hear what your number one is.
Do you have any ideas? Do you think you know what it might be? I think mine's going to be harder.
I don't know. I feel like you just put Fairly Odd Parents on there for no good reason.
No, I'm not going to spite the system.
I'm excited to see your number one list off.
I don't think you're going to give me crap on it at all. But it does just sneak into the 90s category. Just barely makes the cut.
Okay, yeah.
All right. My number one is Digimon!
Okay.
Digimon. Digital monsters.
We are not including anime.
That is a category of its own. No, I'm not going to spite the system.
I thought we weren't doing anime, though.
Okay, but here's my thing. Would you have had this on yours? If we
Probably.
Really?
Maybe?
I just didn't think Digimon would make your cut, even if we were doing strictly anime.
Yeah, but I thought it's fine. It's fine.
I think the thing is why I included it, and I should have anticipated this was the part you were going to give me crap about. Especially after we just talked about I was going to work within the rules that we had established. But the reason I included it, even though I know it's an anime, is because I didn't know what that was at the time. I didn't know that I wasn't just watching a cartoon, like any other cartoon. And maybe that is cheating the system a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Quinn is calling me out. She thinks I've cheated.
I'm not going to say it's not a cartoon because it is a cartoon.
Yeah.
But I thought we weren't doing anime.
All right, we did say we weren't doing anime.
Other than that, I want to hear like why you like the show and like why it's your number one on the list.
Digimon is the best cartoon ever. That's why. Where do I even start? The characters are epic. The concept of Digimon themselves, this is probably gonna get me some hate, but is superior to Pokemon. I know it's a hot take. I've had to defend this to people already before. You will not be the first. The fact that the Digimon themselves have so much personality, so much character development, and the partnership between them and the Digidestined is just beautiful. It is a beautiful tale of friendship to overcome dark, evil forces, and I love it. I love it. I'm obsessed. Okay, obsessed might be too strong of a word because there's plenty about this plot that I don't remember because I have the memory of like a goldfish.
But it doesn't stop Jade from quoting Digimon once a week.
All right, I deserved that. I didn't say it like it was a bad thing. I just want to clarify. I love your Arthur knowledge. Anyway, I don't remember what I was saying now. I love Digimon. Digital monsters are the champions.
And of your list, they are the champions.
They are the champions of my list. Their theme song is the best. What a bop. I do sing that to myself every once in a while. And just one final point about Digimon, another reason it tops the list, is because it is excellent sci-fi. There's like a whole digital world that exists parallel to Earth and that these kids learn how to travel back and forth between or can access. And it is masterful. And that's not even the only universes. There's like other stuff going on. If you haven't watched Digimon, if you're like sleeping on it, please go watch Digimon. End rant. Oh wait, no, can I issue a formal apology for kind of cheating? Greg, I'm really sorry that I kind of picked an anime.
Kinda. Definitely did.
In my defense, it's because I know when we do an anime one, I don't have any. I didn't watch anime as a child besides Digimon.
Okay.
I didn't watch any Pokemon. I wasn't watching Yu-Gi-Oh! Until I was older. So I had to get Digimon.
So my Fairly Odd Parents guess was like pretty close to your Digimon. Just completely off the wall, doesn't fit in our categorization and the rules that we set up at the beginning. But that's okay.
Yeah, I promise for future list-offs, I'm going to do better. I'm going to do better for all of you and for you.
She just loved it so much, she just put it in. That was the energy that like I felt from the number one, and I feel like it delivered.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's really sweet. We have like a significant amount of overlap between our lists, and I love that because I think that's really sweet. We have things in common. But yeah, I don't have anything else to add. I will die on this Digimon hill. You all should let us know in the comments if you like our lists,
Agree with our lists,
disagree, if we missed any that you would have included.
Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.
Peace.